and welcome to TaleInferno. My name is Charlotte and we are here to talk about feminist criticism. We're going to get straight into it. None of that gobbledygook at the beginning. We're talking about the literary theory of feminist criticism in this video. And I am on a mission to make this as short, sharp and shiny as possible, just like the other ones were meant to be. So let's get straight into it and get cracking. I think most of us can probably get the direct correlation straight away when we hear feminist criticism. You suddenly get this feeling of, yes, this must have something to do with feminism. Well, you're not entirely wrong. It most certainly does. It has a very feminine, female orientation to it. It is definitely about looking at literature and criticizing it from the position of being a female or female representations and everything like that, which is very much like the whole movement of feminism, which is all about, equality and everything like that, and the representations of women in the workplace and in just society in general. But it must be noted that feminist criticism really stands on its own. It's not just a spin-off of feminism itself. So from that, we can easily make the statement that feminist criticism, one part of feminist criticism is analysing literature and criticising literature in regards to how females are represented in books and how they can really be a powerful way in, providing role models and so forth for women to think, hey, this is what I can be like. I want to be like this person because this person in the book is like this, and I want to be able to mimic that in a way. And, if it's in a book and people are accepting of that book, it provides females, women, whoever identifies as a woman, a way of living, I suppose. It kind of makes them feel like they can be like that, which is really important for anyone. There needs to be representation of everyone. But feminist criticism really does look at the female side of it. Now, there are three major kinds of feminist criticism, which might be quite surprising for you to hear, but there are different kinds of feminist criticism. The first one that I'm going to talk about is the Anglo-American feminist criticism. Now, this side of feminist criticism really looks at the traditional concepts of literature. So that's like your theme, your motifs, your symbolism, your characterization, and balling that all together and looking at how how symbolic the literature is and how that is a replication of reality. So you can take what is written in a book and how a female character is represented in a book and say, well, this is actually can be put into the world like this. So it almost takes like a pairing, like there's a female and this is how their life is because of this. That's the whole idea around Anglo-American feminist criticism. Another one is the English feminist criticism. Now, it's actually quite interesting because it does kind of still take the same idea of the representation of women in literature, but it looks at it from a more of a socialist point of view. So taking like cultural materialism and even the Marxist and Marxism points of view of it and looking at how females are represented in that way. So really taking, as it is, socialism and social classes and stuff, and how does that relate to female characters in books and how that relates to females in the real world as well. So that's another aspect of it. And then the third one is French feminist criticism. Now, French feminist criticism is a lot more theoretical. So when we talk about theoretical, we're talking about not necessarily the literary text being an equal representation of reality. If anything, French feminist criticism actually takes a step back away from that and says, hang on a second, no, this literary text has nothing to do with real life, but it does have its own representations in its own way. Now, French feminist criticism doesn't only just look at literature either, it also looks at, when French feminist critics write about literature, they're not just writing about literature, they're writing about language, they're writing about representation, they're writing about psychology. That's what they're writing about. So that really leads into the next part of what I want to talk about feminist criticism, and that's really about how psychology gets involved. Because a feminist critic and people who do use this literary theory have a whole range of ways of criticizing literature. So since we actually just talked about psychoanalysis in the last vlog when we talked about literary theories, it actually is quite interesting that feminist criticism latches onto psychoanalysis quite a bit. We're looking at concepts by Freud, and there are some arguments out there that say that, Freud really was a beacon for patriarchal thoughts and concepts in life, and there are some people out there who say that it was a huge detriment to females, some of the stuff that he said. But then there is other literature that actually looks into it in the sense of kind of reworking what he had to say. So for a huge example of it is the concept of sex and gender. So in a lot of research and so forth, a lot of people would put sex and gender as the same thing, but there's a huge distinction now that, sex is the more biological side of it and gender is a construct. So really reworking the whole ideas around it and being like, well, gender is what society makes us think. So some feminist critics will actually say that gender is a social construct and that men and women, what really is different between them, particularly in what's in literature, how can we represent them? Why do we have to take such huge steps in making them so different? Why are we doing that? And then there's obviously that side of Freud that talked about penis envy and women wanting penises. And instead of taking it from the actual physical organ itself, it's been rethought of as not necessarily wanting that organ, but the social power behind it and the advantages of having that organ, the advantages of having that, or what you can gain from it. And it's a really interesting concept. And taking that idea and being like, well, how was that represented in the literary text that I'm looking at? And another really interesting point about feminist criticism and this literary theory as a whole is the aspect of it in criticizing the language that is used. So that, as we all know, I love language and I will continue to talk about how awesome and powerful it is. But with feminist criticism, there's actually this idea that that language that we use is very male driven, that we are oriented in having a very male dominated language. And the question comes up of what is man language and what is woman language. I'd love to hear your idea, your thoughts about what male language is and what female language is, and if they are the same or if really there is a male dominance in language. I'd really love to hear your thoughts and opinions of that. So leave some comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, because this is a very interesting literary theory, and I know that there are some interesting opinions out there about this literary theory. So I'd love to hear from you guys to see what you guys have to think about it. So in a quick summary about everything that I've said in this video, basically feminist criticism is all about criticizing literature and looking and analyzing literature from the point of view of the representation of women, the representation of just gender in general, and the gender construct in literary theory, the whole Anglo-American, English and French sides of feminist criticism, and how people can take different kinds of theories from feminist criticism and deconstruct a text. Using it, you've got the psychoanalysis side of it, and then you've got the awesome side of language and how that is involved in literature, which, language is a very important part in literature. So that is a very important side of it. And as I said, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. I'd like to think this was quite a quick video. It probably wasn't. Again, oops. Haha. Oh well. I've had fun talking about this. It is an interesting literary theory, and I think it is very relevant to this period of time with everything that else is going on in this world. So I'd really love to hear opinions about feminist criticism and literature and everything like that, and everything that I've said. I'd love to hear your opinions and your comments and any other further research that you think would be quite interesting to talk about. I'd love to go further into this, as I would with every other literary theory that I talk about. Now, before I go, because I think it's important to mention this, all the information that I grab, well, most of the information I should say, because I do go to other resources as well, but as I have said in other previous literary theory videos, I gain a lot of my knowledge from Peter Barry's Beginning Theory. You can find the details in the description, and you can have a look at this pretty picture that I keep putting up, but I think it's really important that you guys also do your research on this, because don't just take all of my words as law. That's not it. You know, like literary theories are all about interpretation. So go and do your own research and get your own interpretations of this. What I'm saying is just my interpretations of what I am reading. So, you know, go for your life. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. You know, like, woo, that'd be awesome. If you have anything to say about it, leave a comment. Subscribe if you want to hear more about literary theories and literature and fun things and storytelling and woo, all that cool stuff. That's it from me. Remember to ignite the story, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.